Not at all. Not at all. We're just live. We just come on live.
Whatever.
Let's see here. We've got things. Oh, now we're going live. All right. It was like false alarm. No, literally, it went live in 2 of the 3 locations. So for those of you who are watching this, yeah, we supposedly 30 seconds. 30 seconds of banter. So now we get started. Hello and welcome to today's amazing InFLOWential experience impact or speaker series.
The most unforgettable one out there.
The most unforgettable, yes. So the InFLOWential experience speaker series, we have the most phenomenal speakers coming to our August 4th and 5th events, specifically August 4th, because this one is all about high performing teams, not just creating those teams, but most importantly, leading those teams, because their success, the success of our teams, starts with us, the leaders. So before we jump in, I'm Stacey Rasky. If you're new to my world, the InFLOWential activator, best-selling author, speaker, mindset coach, leadership mentor, empowering impact-driven, high-performing leaders to scale their impact and unlock that next level of genius while creating more freedom and fulfillment without working more. In fact, you're working less, which is beautiful. So enough about me. Today is all about my phenomenal guest who I've known for, let's see, a year and a half at this point. I absolutely love and adore her. She's a powerhouse of knowledge, wisdom, experience, is doing some big, epic things in the world. And I'm beyond honored not only to have her joining me today, but to have her pouring into everyone at our amazing August event. Welcome, Brenda Neckvatal.
Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome. And it's always nice when people pronounce your name right?
Game. It literally is a game as to who can say it right. And it's like I keep score sometimes,
So true. I get the same thing with Rasky. Like people Rask, something around. It's like, I don't know, whatever. It's fine. Just go with it. I don't even care.
I'm ashamed to say that I was flipping through TikTok videos yesterday, and this one girl came on, and she was holding up a piece of agate, and she kept calling it agate. Like, no, it's agate. And she goes, and it has the the shiny crystals in it, and I'm like, that's druzy. She goes, it sparkles. All good.
That's so funny. I absolutely love that. That's hilarious. And I mean, that's the thing, right? I know I've done that too, where I've like pronounced stuff wrong and I'm like, oh yeah, I get to be that person. So that's so funny. So let's get into introductions first. Would you share a bit about who you are, what you're doing before we even get into a teaser about the magic you're going to be sharing at our upcoming event?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously I have a big dog. So he joins in. He literally is the gatekeeper of this house. He has successfully scared off somebody trying to break in. So he's doing his job and I let him do it. So I never, ever tell him not to do his job, but he's loud. So, he's part of the coaching circle. That's how I look at it. Usually he chimes in right when it's something like motivational and positive. So I'm like, look, he even agrees with it. So I am one of those funny people that spent, God, Stacey, how many years studying and working in human resources to, at the age of 50, literally do a change in everything. Like, I have completely walked away from HR. I still have HR clients, and if anybody wants help, I'm never going to say no. But now I am in the drone world. People are like,
because that's
what?
logical. That
Right.
totally, that pathway makes amazing
That's
sense.
right. Yeah, because those are vertically integrated, right? Um,
Exactly.
yeah. So the truth of the matter is that I always wanted to get into something at the ground level. And I have a father with Alzheimer's that I have to take care of. And I have to find ways to make money to support him and his long-term care, because I'm going to tell you right now, oh my gosh, he's really going after it. I love him. Anyway, when it comes to getting older, literally having babies and starting a family is way less expensive. And so even though he didn't plan for a down market, he didn't plan for other things that popped up, and now it's, how do I care? So needless to say, got into this. It's absolutely fascinating, and it's an industry that's going to grow 51% in the next 3 to 5 years. Now, what industry do you know right now that's out there growing at that rate? Technology, just a year and a half ago, was updating every 12 to 18 months. Technology now is updating every 6 to 12 months, which is crazy. And that should tell you something about the drone market. Drones are going to be very much a part of our world. They already are. We're going to see more of them. We've got to figure out our national airspace infrastructure to keep it happening, but guaranteed they're here. There's drones that can fly through your house and do things for you that you can actually find on Amazon. There's actually one with a cradle, and it can come up and you can tell it to do certain things and it'll actually go. So I am now, my mission is to help those people who their passion for flying drones as a hobby and turn it into an entrepreneurial enterprise and help them figure that path along. And there's a lot of, if you Google how to become an entrepreneur, you're going to get a lot of high level stuff that doesn't going to make much sense, other than start a bank account, get your LLC, figure out what your business structure. Oh, and by the way, create a business plan, which nobody really knows how to do right well. And yeah. So we're entrepreneurs. We know the power of moving fast, right? So that's what I'm doing now. In addition to that, I also am and just in the last year and a half that you and I met is when I got into the drones 2 years ago. So it's about 2.5 years now. So in the past year and a half, I've become a operating partner at a drone range. We have 144 acres that we can fly around on. We cater to law enforcement, government agencies, academia. And then I also have part of the company also trains law enforcement and first responders utilizing the knowledge, the skills, the talents, and the badassery of a team of retired Navy SEALs. So not too much.
No,
No,
nothing. That's
not at
amazing.
all. So yeah, my cousin started a group in Facebook a year ago. It's a little over a year ago now, called Beginner Flyers, Beginner Drones for Beginner Flyers. That group, I was one of the first 10 people, and he's now made me an admin. That group, as of today, is at 96,000 people.
I love it.
So yeah, I've jumped into the blue ocean of the drone world, which I'm really really happy about. So in a nutshell, that's what I do.
I love it. That is so amazing. And that's the thing I think is so cool. And obviously us being friends and knowing a bit of your really adventurous early years and some of the really amazing things that you've experienced in your lifetime that add to your depth and breadth of knowledge and wisdom, especially as it applies to high performing teams. I mean, your background, obviously, navigating the world of HR, you've had some crazy level experiences. And now, obviously, working with former Navy SEALs and all the work that you do with all of these military veterans in general, right? Like you are surrounded by people who specialize in this. And having to navigate leadership in that space as well. I mean, it's just amazing, right? And I know for us too, to kind of also bridge the gap as women who thrive in predominantly male dominated industries as well. Like it takes a certain type of person, and especially woman, to be able to navigate those waters in a really successful and healthy way,
Right.
to
No,
be
I
that
don't
level of
disagree.
leader. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. I don't disagree. That's a challenge. That's speaking a whole nother language that is not natural to you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. And to not fall into the trap that a lot of leaders do, especially if you don't come from that military background. I've seen this a lot where you have civilian leaders come in to work with military, whether it's active or veteran, and they don't understand, or they're intimidated by the fact that it's military leadership, and struggle coming into the ecosystem and kind of default to a lot of the kind of old school paradigms of leadership where it's a little more, I always say, like the puffer fish, right? It's kind of like the ego, like I'm feeling a little insecure, so let me kind of be extra. Let me be a little extra, and then be, maybe some of those control issues come out, or maybe I might sound condescending or whatever. But I've seen that a lot in the past, and I remember times even in my early years where I struggled with that imposter syndrome. Like, how am I here super young speaking to these people who are senior to me, but I have some type of specialty, expertise, background, whatever it is, that I'm talking to these people, and I remember those moments of like not necessarily bringing my best self. So
Well, it's funny you say that because I remember at 22 years old feeling very frustrated because I did have something to contribute and I did have something to add, and nobody wanted to hear what I had to say. And I was right on top of it. And so, this imposter syndrome that we have, I mean, yeah, there's an element of it that kicks in on our own. But what I learned really, in my early 20s is that there's a time when you have to prove yourself, but then there's also a time when you as a leader have to show up the right way for your people. And what made it worse for me is that when that was happening to me, I was working in our family business at the time. So imagine that, right? I mean, being kind of snuffed by your own, not your family per se, but the people that work for your family.
yeah.
And they know, and like I never told anybody what my last name was for the first 2.5 years. The only people that knew me were the old timers that've been around forever. And so I had the same last name, as the owners of the company. And when people started to realize who I was, they're like, well, you're not anything that we would have ever expected from like the granddaughter. And I'm like, no, I'm just as nuts as you are.
Just a person. Just a
like,
person.
yeah, man, we expected you to be all spoiled and everything. I'm like, no, it's just me. And so, but yeah, it's very frustrating. And the thing is that leaders, it's easy for leaders to forget that the people that work for you are in fact human. And it's hard. And because you get wrapped up in everything. I mean, as a leader, you own every single problem in that company, whether you're the one actually dealing with it or not, it's yours. You own it. Right. And so when you're doing whatever it is that you're doing and somebody comes in and they insert whatever new issue you have, and you're not like, they may have come up and said it to you at the wrong moment at the wrong time for you, you have a moment. It's a very fast one. It's a micro moment to where you have the ability to make a decision how you respond. And if you don't make the right choice on how you respond, people are going to see you showing up very different than what you really are. And in this instance, with the one that never paid attention to me or didn't want to listen to what I had to say, he had some preconceived notion about me because he was focusing it on the wrong thing. And, you know, I was held to a different standard. Like I only one time I have ever slept in. My alarm honestly didn't go off. It was on, but it never went off. And I lived with my grandparents, and they're like, yeah, we didn't even hear it. So I go in 15 minutes late, I get written up. And I said, help me understand, why am I being written up when you've got that girl in plumbing who has never made it on time by your own lips and your own confirmation for the past 5 years, and you've never disciplined her? Mm-hmm. Well, you're the granddaughter of the company, you have to set a standard. I'm like, dude, half the people here don't even know who I am. So it's how you show up, right? And you can't split standards. You have to hold everybody the same standard. You won't have a high performing team if your standards are all over the place just because you have an opinion about something.
That's powerful right there. That's huge. If somebody did not make a note of that, go back and listen to that again.
Now.
Make a note of that, because that is huge for culture. You know, I know for myself, that's something we've had a big shakeup within our culture. And that was something that I had to clean up because, you know, for myself, it's like, okay, I know my standards and my expectations, and they were clearly communicated. However, there were people within the team who had not been stepping up to meet those standards. And I, as the leader, allowed it to go on longer than it needed to because some of those people are family.
That's hard too. I mean, how do you hold everybody to stay? Like, I had a cousin. I mean, unfortunately, he passed away many years ago, but you know, I had a cousin that worked there, and he was the spoiled one. And people are like, come in, he is nothing like you. They actually saw me as the benchmark, and he was the problem. And you know, it's like, oh my gosh, how can you say ill of the dead? Well, I'm just being honest, you know. And that's what it was. And they had to manage him. I had to manage him very, very differently than me. And then all of a sudden I went from being like the black sheep in the store to like the ideal model. Like, I just show up, do my work. That's all I do. You know? I go out and live my life outside of here. Don't associate with anybody. I just show up and do my work.
That is so funny, right?
That $6.25 an hour. Thank you very much.
Oh man, you were rolling in the dough.
Dude, 1990, whatever that was in the early 90s. Woo, that was
good pay that back then.
I know. I think what minimum wage is $3.25.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause now in Florida, I think it's like $10.75 or $10.50 or something's the new minimum wage.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So let's get into talking a bit, kind of hitting a bit of the teaser on some of the topics or the key things you're going to be sharing at our event on August 4th.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the big thing is that there's two different mindsets, and I actually wrote a book on this. One is a white wolf mindset, one is a black wolf mindset. And you know, it's not necessarily what you think it is. So I'll give you a little bit of a cheat here, and those that are coming, they're going to hear it again. But the black wolf is actually only in North America. It doesn't exist anywhere else. It's a genetic phenomenon. So that means that the black wolf is more rare than any other kind, right? So white and gray are the two, and brown are the most popular ones. So we are part of Apex. So therefore, correlating it back to that, if the white, brown, and gray is the average, then the unique and outside of what we know in Apex is the force of average, then it's the black wolf mindset, and it's the step up mindset, right? So when you're looking at how, if you want to exact change in your business, if you want to set standards in your business, then you have to show up every single day in a specific way. So for instance, I am, believe it or not, actually a very lenient leader when it comes to showing up for meetings. because here's my expectation, and I make it abundantly clear. I don't care where you are, what you're doing, and what time of the day it is, as long as the work gets done. That's my rule. Because we're in a virtual world and we're still dealing with, a lot of spillover from COVID. We still have people that have to figure out how are they going to take care of older parents and family members with compromised immune systems. Not saying that there's a big pandemic anymore. That's not where I'm going with this, is that those problems still exist out there. So I don't have an issue working with my team to figure out how are they going to address real life issues. If they miss a meeting, that's fine. They're responsible. This is the other expectation. They're responsible for tagging up with me. Now you're on my schedule and you better show up, because if you're not doing the work, you don't have a place here. Stuff happens, and I respect that. And I think there's that nice give and take, because they do appreciate it. They don't feel the traditional pressure and guilt of trying to decide, do I feed my family or do I take care of my family? That's an awful position for somebody to be in. Not in my world. Now, if I was in a call center or something like that where the environment's different, I wouldn't be that kind of leader, right? I'd have to show up in a completely different way in regards to expectation as to how and when the work gets done. In this case, it's when the work gets done. The how is clearly spelled out. I don't need to bang that into somebody's head. The other piece is that I do, and I'll just talk from my own experience, is that I don't tell somebody how to sell when I am not the best salesperson on the planet. That's why I bring somebody in to sell, because one, I can't stand doing it. I do it, I don't like it. And number two, it is not my zone of genius. So my sales guy on the coaching platform, or in the course, right, which will eventually lead into a mastermind and all the other good stuff that we kind of have this business model on, he has it on his calendar. He's been tasked with choosing a date to put on his calendar when he can fire me from sales. And he is so looking forward to it.
I love
I'm like,
it.
that's your first assignment. Pick a day when you're going to fire my butt from sales. Do it. And he's like, I am on this. This is awesome. Like, he wants to have this big thing. It'll probably just like the two of us. I'm like, dude, I'll even freaking film it and stream it live on Facebook. I have no problems with that. Fire my butt from sales, will you? So, but that means that I can't be particular. It's like, he's got experience. He has the right experience. I've known him for a long time. I know his reputation. I know his capabilities. Now I have to trust that. And, like, looking, if things are starting to get out of line, then it's my job to ask him, what kind of help do you need? You don't need me to sell, but you've got other obstacles that are showing up. What do you need me to help you be outrageously successful? And every call that I have with everybody on my team, I ask them that question. What do you need from me today so that you can be outrageously successful? And I promise you, they tell you, because you asked. They'll tell you.
Well, it takes a lot of self-awareness and wisdom on your part to know how to nurture, support, and develop your team to rise into their own potential as leaders.
Yeah. I mean, you have to set your expectations, but then you also have to really figure out how you communicate them so that they connect with the people that are listening. So if you have this, and that's what good leaders do, honestly. People always think that good leaders are like, they have your back every time, they lead from the rear, or they have this thing. It's like, look, there's a big recipe that goes into being a good leader, and it's going to be unique for each and every single person. It's not the same thing over and over and over again. For me, it's counterbalancing my impatience with things that make things happen, because I can be pretty impatient, and I have this story in my head, and every one of us is like this. But when I know that my impatience is bubbling up, that's my signal for me to slow down the conversation, look at the situation for what it is, and then ask, what is it you need from me to be outrageously successful today? Because they don't see it as you coming down on them. They really do interpret it that as I'm telling you what I need help with because you're open to hearing it.
That's powerful. And that's exactly it, right? Is being able to communicate effectively with each of the people. When I was on the Clubhouse chat this morning with Scott Simons, we were actually talking about that leadership and communication.
Yeah.
And getting to that place of doing the inner work to where we as leaders are so in tune with ourselves in such a state of embracing our truth, such a high level of self-ownership and high level of access to all aspects of ourselves that we learn how to then get on other people's world map. So you're communicating and interacting with someone the way they communicate, the way they want to be treated. Because the creative person in the feelsy space over here, like my lead coach, he communicates in a very different way from my director of operations, who's very logical and analytical. Their language is different. The way they communicate is different. And me as the leader, I've got to be able to pivot to both of them. And I see so many leaders going through this trap of, and I'll do the being authentic, where they're so aware of self, but that's where it stops. They're like, okay, this is my authentic type of leadership, so they need to come meet me where I'm at.
You got to meet them where they are.
Yes.
Yeah. So you got to meet them where they are and then bring them up.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I think it's just going to that next level. Why the inner work is not enough, but it's doing the inner work while then scaling the leadership skills to understand how to then take this next level me and bring it into an effective we. Right?
A result. Yeah, exactly.
For good result.
That's right. The result.
Result. We're coming on.
Yeah, play on words. Ms. Play on words over there. So,
I love
we won't
that.
even talk about how he almost got me in trouble with our other guest that day, Mr. Will Branham. But that's okay.
Well, we will have the amazing William Branham. I will be interviewing him next week, as he'll be one of the other phenomenal speakers at our upcoming August InFLOWential experience. So any final thoughts before we wrap up? And definitely any recommendations for someone on the fence why they need to get their butts to this event?
So yeah, so if you're on the fence, I'm going to be honest with you. I talk about things that most people talking about leadership don't. And that, I guess, I don't know if it's my superpower or not, but it's like, I am that person that does not travel with the normal flow. And it's really funny because I envy people who do, which is really bizarre. But because it always makes me feel like a square peg in a round hole. But then when I hear people say, "Oh my gosh, I've never heard of something that way," I've never heard anybody put something like that. Like this is, I think, like who would have ever thought of something like that? Then I realize that I continuously hit the mark. So just know that I'm not going to talk about the average. The stuff that is going to come out of this trap is not stuff that most people talk about.
Hence why I invited you to speak.
That's the reason why we're here, right? Exactly.
Because it is. You have this beautiful magic, and it is one of your superpowers, the way in which you explain concepts. You explain them in such a unique and powerful way that I see things land that normally don't. And so it is really, really amazing. And so I can't wait to hear what you bring for the full segment and pouring into everyone in the way that you will be, because it's just going to be absolutely phenomenal.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I haven't had a chance to talk about this stuff in a long time, so I'm pretty excited about it. I'm going into my arsenal.
Oh, all right. Touche.
My arsenal.
Okay. Well, raising the bar of expectations.
That's right. Absolutely. Hell yeah.
I love it. I'm so excited. It's going to be amazing. Between you, William, Rebecca, and myself, it's just going to be bananas good on leadership, mindset, teams, communication. We will be talking a lot about that. And for those of you who don't have teams yet, guess what? If you're married or have kids or I don't know, have to interact with other human beings on the planet, it will be beneficial. If you've got to communicate, with clients, it will be beneficial. Learning how to communicate. So thank you so much, Brenda. It has been an honor and a pleasure as always. Thank you so much for joining me. And for those of you who are here, if you have not yet gotten your tickets to attend our August influential experience, beinfluential.com/event. Obviously, the link is in the show notes on all of these posts across the different platforms. I'm like, what is it? What is it? I don't know. Where is it at? Right? Like, I'm trying to remember. Show notes. It's in there. Click that link. Join us. Get your butt down here to Tampa. All things leadership and high performance teams. You will absolutely love it. It's intimate. You get a lot of time with all of the leaders and experts to focus on you and your exact needs. You'll get all that masterminding, that Q&A time, that time to get the support to do the work before you leave. That's why we say this is experiential and different from most other events. This isn't just pour into you. This is where you actually get to do the work, create the results, and then leave knowing not just what to do, but leaving different than how you arrived. So beinfluential.com/event, grab your tickets. Doors are closing on, what is the date? I think it's the 28th because the 28th. Doors close on the 28th. So we have like a week and a half left. So grab your tickets. All right. We are going to wrap up. So have an amazing day. Thank you so much for joining us and stay tuned for our other interviews on this amazing speaker series. And I will see you at our event. Have a good one.